I wanted to honor innovators, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and those with limitless attitudes. Welcome to Blue Sky. This episode of Blue Sky is sponsored by The Vanguard, the definitive online community for defense and aerospace leaders and innovators to grow, communicate, and build capacity in our defense industrial base. With curated discussion forums, exclusive networking, a desktop and mobile app, and unique access to working sessions and AMAs with top leaders in the defense and aerospace industries, The Vanguard is the next generation career accelerator for those looking to break into or make an impact on the defense and aerospace sectors. Join the ranks of the Vanguard today with a free trial and enter coupon code Blue Sky, that's one word, Blue Sky, at the link in this posting.
I see you shave for us, Richard.
Yeah, you like that? Yeah.
I love that. I'm like doing hair and makeup and oh my God, I forgot earrings and you show up, Scrappy.
I'm the product of a single mom household growing up. And at the peak of mom's career, she was an executive director for a luxury retirement facility. And she was a tough Texan. And so I've always been inspired by strong women who've paved the way for themselves. And I know it wasn't easy for her, even though she made it look easy. So I know there's something there that is special. Each of you have survived the corporate world to come out on the other side as entrepreneurs. And I'd really like to explore your backgrounds to understand the journey, the challenges, the motivation to take the risk to become a business owner.
Sure.
So I think just dive into some backgrounds. Wendy, where do you come from? What's your story?
Yeah, my story is I am pretty broad. Like you could basically say, throw me into something at this point because I've been fortunate to live across really large scaled organizations in different industries. So, I started at the heart of the automotive industry in Detroit, Michigan, where I was born, raised, and schooled in that state. And the auto industry, what was there, and in highly engaging category because you just get to live, breathe your product. You're surrounded by competitors and get to experience even what it is to drive a car every day to go into the office. I then went to Nationwide Insurance in Columbus, Ohio. And then Dun & Bradstreet is the company that moved me out to New Jersey years ago, which is where I'm coming into all of you today. So when you talk about like truly consumer oriented, Nationwide Insurance was, financial services more like B2B and B2C in that mix too, and very different for a service versus a packaged good. And then Dun & Bradstreet Business Information Services, and one of the, surviving dinosaurs of its time. It's over 175 years old company, wonderful company, but that's truly more about like data and true B2B for all businesses, small to the largest globally. And so really different track in terms of like my corporate track. And then when I left D&B, I went into a smaller organization, 115 employees, roughly 100 million of revenue. And I really got a taste for what it feels like to have an impact very quickly in a smaller organization, kind of cutting across everything there. And then in recent years, I then went on to healthcare and worked in a digital health startup, truly as employee number two, getting a proof of concept off the ground, a well invested in proof of concept. But that's where I got to experience healthcare then firsthand, and where I've chosen to stay now as an entrepreneur, as co-founder of VLAB Partners, because I just feel like we can all sit and nod our heads and say, healthcare needs to be better than where it is today. We all experience it. I can tell you firsthand, having lived in other sectors, it can be a lot better than where it is. I was surprised how far behind or how much opportunity still sits ahead for the particular, this particular industry. And I really felt that my biggest impact or value, which is what matters to me now at this stage in my career, was best served in staying pointed at businesses either kind of on that earlier phase in the healthcare industry or more surrounding and trying to enable those within the healthcare industry to really try and transform it from where it is. There's a lot of great people trying to do that, but that's, now where I'm sitting today as part of that. And I've lived, so on top of that, just across sectors, not to be too verbose for both of you, but, I've also lived in different roles. I've trained school-wise from marketing background. I've done data and analytics. I've done product development at General Motors, and then most recently was a chief product officer. So I've lived in various roles within these organizations also, strategy and partnerships, global operations. Like it's been quite a wide variety in terms of functional experience also for me, which is what makes me, I think, best served to kind of sit where I do now in multiplying that instead of just staying in one organization and kind of having an impact within, but taking where I sit outside of organizations, understanding how to navigate them, and then also understanding the various roles that people sit in to kind of bring that together and make things actually happen versus just, ideas. I found doesn't matter size of company. There's never a lack of ideas. It's the ability to get them all done.
Did you find some of the challenges in both large and small companies to be relatively the same
Yeah.
from the perspective of being a professional woman in that environment? So, for example, did you come across certain biases
Great
of
question.
your leadership, or any nuances that you learned from over your career path?
It's interesting. They've been different when it comes to like being a female kind of growing in my career. I had different biases. I was fortunate early in my career that people saw talent in me that I may not have seen for myself or known was within firsthand. And so because of that, I moved really quickly in terms of responsibility and growth and was presented opportunities for me that I would have been silly to pass up. But it also created a bias. Not only there could have been some things as a female, it was very difficult, especially in the automotive category, for example, to find female mentors that had actually had career and had children. Many of them had delayed having children at that time or had adopted later because they did those trade-offs in order to have career. So it was really hard for me to find strong female mentors as I was then starting a family still in that industry at that time. That was difficult. But then now go on to like, once I left General Motors and was in insurance and investments there at Nationwide, that was a very different experience for me. And I remember someone saying to me, I was young vice president in that company and now 2 children at that point. And someone said to me, they walked past my office, knocked on the door. They said, hey, Wendy Palmer, I heard that, you're really young. And I go, yeah, I am. And he's like, okay, good for you. Like, I'm not disclosing my age. What does that matter at this point, right? And so I've also probably, in addition to like then what you do based on that of like finding, I would always take on opportunities to be a mentor to other kind of women coming up in their careers. I'd get pulled in to talk to first year MBA students about when, I couldn't believe the audiences and what they would ask about how did I juggle career and being a mom and that. So I would try and give back in that way. And then the other part for me is I've also probably carried that, a different look at like, you don't need to put time in order to be the right person qualified for the job if you have the underlying skills. So also with like the young bias that sometimes can happen, I can't say that experience doesn't matter because it does, but making a bet on upside talent also matters. And so, to say you must put in X number of years before you can do this, I just don't believe in hard lines on that and tend to give opportunities to people that perhaps others may say they're not ready yet, because I know I'm a strong coach or mentor to those people by taking those bets on people kind of growing in their careers too. And then, in recent years, it's been refreshing to me because the other part I think that happens that oftentimes isn't talked about, and Melissa, I'd be curious what you've experienced is I also saw even in the last 10 years, I really had some instances where, because of perhaps the roles that I was in that draw a lot of visibility, perhaps because, I'd had a good run and, appear certain ways to people that they kind of pass judgments at times. I also found that women didn't really do a lot to help one another in my career, like peers. It's almost like competitive. It wasn't the pick you up and carry it forward kind of thing, like that I observed that males do for one another. And that was combined at the same time where I was having some mentors that I'd known for a number of years say to me, Wendy, you have 3 kids. You really should slow down. Are you sure you want to go and take on that big role next? And I'm like, this drive has always been in me. I can't shut it off. And so, I had both of those kind of dynamics playing around the same time, career so far. And that's what's been refreshing in the last couple of years for me is I feel like maybe the last 3 or 4, I feel like there's been a movement for women to want to help one another more intentionally, or I have chosen to surround myself in my professional network with women that only do that and not the kind of surface level stuff that happens. I don't know why it should be so hard to want to see someone else be successful and say, I know I helped that person versus threatened by it. And when I was going through that kind of experience of feeling that way and not feeling like people really, women were doing that for one another, I also learned that I have a personality that tends to embrace those that are super like, I'm going to learn from that person. I love that they're awesome at this. And I tend to run towards what others may view as like threatening scenarios or where people would react more threatening. And I learned that I might give off that vibe to people. And that was like great personal discovery for me because I didn't realize that other people weren't wired the way I was, which was like, no, cool. I love that they're super smart or they're awesome at this. I'm going to learn from that. And I learned instead that I might be evoking threat responses in other people because people would say like, well, Wendy, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? Do you want to be a CEO someday? I'm like, I don't know. I've never put a ceiling on what I want to be. That continues to evolve for me. It's never been, I must achieve this and then I'll have, I'll realize that it's never been about a title or other things. And so when I would say something so honest or authentic and open with people, sometimes by being too open could bring out threats with it too. Just when I think about like, and I didn't realize that was the dynamic I might have been creating just from having a conversation more candidly like we are today.
Boy, does that sound familiar, Melissa? Us 2 colluders. We were in a past live together, and we were both vice presidents at this organization, and as such, we tried to evoke an environment of teamwork and collaboration, but that was frowned on by some people because they saw it as colluding and they saw us as having each other's backs, even though perhaps one of our teams wasn't performing up to the high expectations that were set. And because they weren't performing up to that impossible bar, having the support of that person and trying to boost their team up and get their morale going was seen as something controversial. Very, very.
It was a very divide and conquer leadership strategy, by the CEO that was very, it really, now I can look back at it, it reeked of immaturity and inexperience. And it was just divisive, so it was very, I always gravitate to smarter, better, faster, stronger than me. And, Richard and I were very like-minded. We're still very like-minded. And you want people who are going to be around you, who are going to challenge you, intellectually and strategically and professionally, and that you can trust. And so I've always developed teams as a leader with that in mind, and embraced peers that were that way. Kind of not really a snowflake type person or looking for that environment. So it was off-putting. It revealed a lot, and I think it paved the way for what was revealed later. But it's a a lot of lessons always.
I like to think sometimes even the tough situations, like I can remember working with some peers where I just really, this goes a ways back, but like where they would do things that were just stylistically very, very different from me. And I would still say, okay, at the very least, I'm going to learn what I don't want to be and what
Sure.
I don't, how I would not handle situations, as terrible as they can be sometimes or frustrating at the time. Unfortunately, it still takes some of those to learn, and really it shapes who we all are today, because all the more emphasis you'd place, I'm sure, on the collaboration, the teamwork, the, wanting to really create the environments that you do and how you work with people today.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I have to toot Melissa's horn because she's not going to do it herself, but I'm going to put her on the spot. And this harkens to your career in the automotive space, and perhaps some of the challenges you're met as a professional female in that space. Melissa was recently honored, and I'd like you to talk about that achievement in your space.
Sure. So there's a journal in the power sports industry, Power Sports Business Journal, and they have a set of awards at the end of the year. So one of them was Women with Spark. So I was nominated. It's pure nomination. So I was nominated by somebody on my team, my ex team, and then chosen as one of the winners this year. So it was, I mean, I'm still very, very humbled by it. And, my career started in power sports. I was born into it with the other side of my family related at Fox Factory and Fox Racing Shocks. And so with my education coming in pre-law and foreign languages, and I was knee deep in my master's and looking at 2 tracks, being recruited by the FBI, and then going on to a PhD program. And I got sucked into the power sports side and fell in love with marketing. So I spent the first 10 years of my career in marketing and product development, with Fox Factory, and then on with Bill Helmets, and then with CD and Easton and those groups. And then, so that was really, I'm a child of that crew. So to come back in that industry after taking about a 14-year break to go do some nonprofit work, to be back into it with my last company, I was brought in as employee number 4, and really, alongside Richard and some others, built the company from ground up. It was a nice comeback. What do they say? The setback is always comeback is always greater than a setback, or something kind of like that. But it was a wonderful honor, and it was, came on the heels of me announcing the launch of my new consulting firm, and it has now resulted in some great things that are coming down the road that I'll be able to announce in the next few weeks. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Congrats,
Yeah.
Melissa.
Yeah.
That's great.
But you're right. It's go ahead, Richard.
Just going to ask about how that bridged your new adventure. So going from the corporate world and achieving something that's not very common, was there any empowerment in that achievement that just sparked your interest in starting your own thing?
No, it came after. So, truth be told, I was part of a workforce reduction alongside Richard. And the first 3 days post that event, I was really, really overwhelmed by my network really just gobbling me up, and the outreach to me. It's amazing how you maneuver along the path in your career, and you get to a point where you're not the one, it's the push-pull, where I wasn't really the one having to reach out. It was people reaching out to me. And it was very, very humbling, very exciting, very scary, and I think within 5 days I had my company named, and I had my LLC filed, and it was one big, we're going to go for it. And then I think it was that next week that I found out that I had received the award, and I was just so humbled and grateful, and I'm still so humbled by it. They're going to launch all the press on it January, February, and they did they did top stories of 2023 yesterday on the website, and story number 2 was the award winners. And I'm scrolling through, and my daughter was with me, and she goes, "Mom, there's your picture again." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I was so embarrassed." So it's embarrassing, and I will cheerlead anyone. Always a team captain, always that type of a person. I'm number 2 of 5 kids, and in some ways the one that ring leads and masters. Although number 1 does a pretty good job, but so I'm always one to hold the sign and cheer for someone else, and it's really hard to cheer for myself. It's gotten better because I've learned now that it's a necessity of business. There's got to be a certain aspect of self-promotion that I learned a little bit maybe too late in my career, but I'm starting to embrace uncomfortably, but embracing it and exploring it and letting it work as fuel to drive my current venture and open up doors and pathways, and not be afraid to talk about what I'm doing in different conversations and let that explore, not from a bragging or boastful perspective, but, oh, hey, I'm involved in this project, or hey, I'm doing this, or I've been asked to do this, or I'm really interested in doing that. And just really let it fuel the confidence and dialogues and the taking on of new things.
We share in that, Melissa. So I will tell you, I've not had a hard time giving others credit where credit is due. If anything,
Right.
it's a strength of mine, right? To make sure
Sure.
I get it out. But to go and kind of talk I, me has
Oh, yeah.
not been in my vernacular either. It's always been we did that, right?
Yeah.
And so I am on a similar path as you, like embracing, I call it being braggadocious. And I don't mean it like bragging in a bad way.
Right.
I've had to ramp up my comfort, and I'm still a little uncomfortable being braggadocious, talking about myself. And finding ways to still feel authentic to me versus doing it to drive business or interest or other stuff, and still have those kind of things come together, because
Sure.
I'm very big on authenticity, like staying true to myself and not pretending to be something I'm not. And that's the gift, honestly, I think we can all sit with at this stage in our careers. Like, I'm really comfortable with who I am, and I'm unapologetically me at this stage. And that's a good thing, right? But then what comes with that is, I got to put myself out there. I'm great at giving others feedback on how to do that. And I will be the person to, as you said, be the cheerleader, or the person that would help them even with seeing how they could do that for themselves.
Yeah.
When I do it for myself, like, it's a muscle I have not built to say it runs like riding a bike. It's not kind of the rhythm for me yet. So.
No, it's a dozen, 2 dozen colleagues had said that knew I was getting that word. You have to post it and you have to talk about it. I was like, oh gosh, you have to. You have to. If in launching my business, what I have learned is that if I don't talk, I have to be the cheerleader. I have to be the master conductor of talking about my business, so that I can encourage and inspire other people to talk about my business. Mm-hmm. And a very strong and dear colleague of mine said, you need 50 more people like me talking about what you're doing. But if you don't talk to us about what you're doing, we're not going to know what to talk about. So you have to keep having those conversations. So I honestly could spend, I could spend a full week to 2 to 3 to a month, maybe 2-3 months at this point, going down my list. And I have not even made it through the baseline conversations I wanted to have dating back to 60 days ago. I've been very fortunate to pick up some awesome clients to start with. And of course, it's company hat, company logo, and flying the flag and stickers on the car, and diving in knee deep to the work from a strategy perspective and a tactical perspective, and putting my best foot forward. Mm-hmm. And then in the background, it's, I have to still be plugging along my business and what Cat Strategy does. And making sure that I'm maintaining the authenticity and the appropriateness and the relevancy of my sales and marketing firm. So that's been an interesting new balance, because I've always been a company girl. And my mom always says, you dive in head first without a life jacket, not knowing where to swim, and you eat it, drink it, live it, sleep it. And so, I got to a point where I thought, I think it's time, given the amount of pull that I was feeling, I think it's time I do something for myself that I can look back and be really, really proud of, and know that it's going to be really hard, and it's going to be really challenging, and it's going to require a lot of balance, and it's going to look different as a single mom and single provider, and schedules may be different, and it's going to challenge me differently. But at the end of the day, it's probably going to be the thing that I'm most proud of outside of having kids. And I met with a local banker. I was told, go interview 3 bankers and develop a relationship with a personal banker. I'm like, can I just go with like Chase or something like that? Or no. So I did the routine. Wonderful colleagues here supported me in that. And I met with a banker, and he goes, what do you want to do? And I said, what do you want to build? And I got a little bit clamped. I'll do that when it comes to stuff like this, Richard knows. And I said, I want to build a legacy for my children. And it was, he goes, you've been really nervous answering all my questions up until that one. He goes, so, which tells me that you have, or all your passion chips are in on this one. And they absolutely are. So it's been,
I would add that coming from a world of products,
yeah,
I now survive, and I think all 3 of us survive in a world of consultancy, which is a soft skills product. And so the challenge there being that product isn't something physical that you can put in their hands and they can try out and experiment with, and the product doesn't sell itself. And in this extremely crowded space, we have to sell ourselves. And that's been one of my personal challenges is, going back to what Wendy was talking about, and just having that confidence to be able to brag and to speak eloquently about what you provide, your service, the soft skill value add to the company versus the other 10 people out here that are also doing that. That's been one of my challenges. I don't know about you.
I think so it does tie nicely back to what Melissa was saying too, on the people aspect, to be then your best word of mouth, your advocates for you out there when you have your fans kind of equipped to go and then tell your story to others. That just from my experience in when I made the transition over to like strictly B2B largely, you could say, yes, there's a marketing organization. Yes, there are products and services, but when you're selling something that's more B2B, it is largely relationship to relationship, person to person. And so the people end up being the representatives largely of a brand or the organization in many cases, because there's not a product that everyone might be familiar with. It's more abstract in that way. And so for me, that's you got to get your other people out there, even if they're not selling for you, selling on your behalf. That one makes sense. It's still, I kudos to both of you. For me, when I did the debate before and filed my first LLC when I was in transition, I did it because I knew I was dreading big corporate, and the thought of it, I just couldn't handle it at that time. I'd say it differently now, but at that time I needed a break from it. And I knew there was value in the package of me that was very unique given my diverse industry and functional experience to offer to smaller organizations that they couldn't find in one person elsewhere. But the daunting task, Melissa, that you're talking of growing your business and delivering, executing on the business that you have already with clients, and then the part to go and still generate pipeline and demand to keep it going and evolve it, that was the part that scared me the most in taking that step then. Yeah. And that's why I'm a co-founder. I was fortunate. I haven't lived my entire career in healthcare. I partnered up with my partner, Melinda, and we, founded VLAB Partners because we knew there was strength in the two of us together between our backgrounds that we've had in organizations. She's deep in healthcare, background and has done a step away. I've spent the last 3 years in the digital health space, but have quite a diverse background. And then she's more CFO and CRO type of mindset. And I'm more COO, CPO, CMO type of stuff, which can have a lot in there, but strategy and operations is kind of where we intersect. And the nice part of that is we get to share in some of that as a business by having a partner. Now, granted, going into business with a partner is tough. We're fortunate to have met one another, to trust one another, to be willing to take the step, because that's a big commitment in and of itself. But I'd say like sharing in the load of, I'll go stand up our website and file us as a business. You go and tackle these and let's bring this business in and start to deliver on that, where we can divide and conquer, I will say has been the right thing for me at this stage to be willing to take this step. And I'll also say, I wish I would have been willing to do it on my own years ago, because it's been so liberating. I've had the most fun, even if I'm not making the financial levels of where I want to be at. The impact I'm having, the prospect and the inspiration even to others just in doing this is like, there's a story in and of it there that you got to catch, Melissa. You can write a book someday on this, right? Like Richard's smiling and knows, like it's just, it's really, really, I've never been happier in recent years until taking this step. And so it's really, I was kind of standing at the edge, scared and still in search. And I'm like, nope, I just got it. We're going to go all in and we're going to do this.
I think I didn't give myself a chance to think about doing it or not doing it.
Yeah.
And my marketing side took over. So our Richard and I got we got the axe on a Tuesday, and by a Friday, I was like, maybe just spin up an LLC and just, there's got to at least siphon some. That sounds very not right, but siphon some my first contract money through my LLC, just so I'm legit and legal and tax. It all makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then my marketing wheel started spinning over the weekend. And I remember I said to my daughters, I think I'm going to start a company. Like, what should, and I think I literally laying in bed when I wrote about 10, 15 names in a notes section in my phone. My notes section is I swear it should be a personal journal. It is a personal journal, really. Yeah. And understand. And by the end of Saturday, that was done. Sunday, logo was done. Monday, LLC was filed. And it was 9/11, so that's always my grandfather's fire chief. So I have a lot of that always, and it didn't dawn on me till after. I'm like, oh, 9/11. I'm like, So just little things, and then my daughters and I dropped cookies at the fire department.
Yeah.
Fireman. So what do you do for a living? And my daughter said, she owns a business. It's called Catch. And the business was not even like really, I mean, it was just, I literally had just sent in the papers. So it was just very funny, but it's, I don't know what you guys, well, I know Richard, but the pride that my children have had in me doing this. I mean, it's my 8-year-old said, I've started a business. Can I show you my Canva board? And I looked at her, what? And so, the one thing that I've noticed this time in my career is that my children have watched how I've handled this career transition. They've watched when I thought they were not watching. They've listened to the dialogues, and they're absorbing every single bit of it to see how I would handle it and process it, and what emotions I would have from it, and how I think most importantly how I would rebound. And it is, and I'm going to go dorky old school. It is that Rocky line of, you get hit, you fall down, and it's not about how hard you get or how many times you get hit. It's about how you get up, it's about getting back up and keep going. And that, if there's one thing, as I was getting ready for this, I was thinking about the way my life has turned, this year, the kind of a lot of the unexpected that have happened in 2023 for me. And that has been probably one of the biggest things is the rebound, and having my children watch the rebound, and the pride I have in what they've seen, and then as a business owner and with the contracts, you're like, all right, I just want another one to come, and I want another one to come, and I want another one to come, and you've got some really good work in front of you, and you just want to know that there's more that's going to come after it. And so that's where you're constantly on your toes, having the conversations and staying relevant, because one contract will end and others have to start. That's just the nature of what we do. And, I always say I'm a career monogamist, so I never want any of it to end. So, but it's the nature of the beast. And so it's making sure that you don't lose sight of that and get complacent and so focused on the work at hand. You've got to be constantly planning for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months from now.
Yeah.
I think the importance of partnerships is extremely relevant here. Wendy, you've got your business partner. Melissa, you've got your children as kind of by proxy business partners. Me, I've got my wife, Kim. She's my 50-50 business partner, and she's been out of the workforce for, well, how old's my oldest daughter? 12 years now. Kim came from a career of healthcare as well. She was a certified radiation therapist for oncology patients. And so, one thing she used to always tell me is, my favorite customers always die. And it became very hard on her. And so when we had the opportunity, thank God, to afford a single income household, then we leaped on it. And so
Yeah.
she's had her full-time career raising our two wonderful daughters. And now the impetus of bringing her into the partnership as I started this last LLC. And by the way, let me brag real quick. We just got our C Corp filings.
Yay! Congrats.
Congrats, Richard.
Thank you. We're partners on that as well. The importance was that she's been out of the workforce and she's not accruing any kind of Social Security. Her 401k has been sitting there for 12 years, just growing at the speed of an Edward Jones rep. And so I wanted her, well, we both wanted it, but I had to really pull her into becoming a partner on paper to kind of get some skin in the game, to get a little momentum for herself, and to start kind of learning some of the administrative side of the business and just getting back into some sort of career opportunity in the event that I pass away tomorrow, so that, she's reskilled and reintroduced into modern language and, the vernacular of business and kind of learning some of the concepts of finance, et cetera, and so forth. And I can think of no better partner than my life partner to be involved in this entrepreneurial journey. And I know it's not that easy for everyone out there. In fact, this kind of path can do quite the opposite to marriages. And I see you kind of chuckling there, Wendy. I don't want to put you on the spot, but if you've got any thoughts on that, I know I saw it with my mom's journey growing up in that single mom household, and kind of the rift that was caused from my dad's professional career in politics, and how kind of the hubris of being that political figure kind of drove them apart and forced my mom into the position of being the entrepreneurial spirited professional that she grew to be.
Yeah, look, I think you're really fortunate to have a partner to be able to take that journey with. For some, it's like, nope, we need our space and we're much better apart than in something together. And others, I think, the thing that kind of goes behind that when you talk about like job transitions or other things, even in marriages, is it can be really tough having a spouse out of work, losing their job, for me, work has been such a large piece of my identity. I don't, it's just in the drive, like it's a purpose and that matters so much in just people's, general happiness. You need to kind of have a purpose that's driving you, whether it be for-profit, nonprofit, something that you're putting your energy into, and so I think sometimes when that shifts or moves away or other things, it can cause strain on relationships. So, and I'd also say, Richard, your wife's really lucky that she has the partner in you to say, like, you're going to come into this. I know this is going to benefit you at this point, just to, knowing each other. as well as you do to encourage her to take that step. Because I think it could be incredibly fun. And I know it works for many. Also, my smiles come from like the transitions that, trailing spouse or other moves and stuff that cause strain, for me personally, in relationships. And I think also just genuinely seeing it kind of kill the happiness of your partner when they're not thriving in what they're doing day to day. And, coming around to that, then when you think about the impact on kids, Melissa, like I have lived recent decade of my life. I've always lived my life of like, I'm going to at least try it. I'm going to at least try. If I don't try, then, shame on me. I don't want to wish I would have. So all of my big life decisions, school, high school, college, like, and onward have always been through that lens. Activities that I may have taken on, jobs or big moves, other things were always through, I can try. Okay, if it doesn't work out, I can do something about it, right?
Yeah,
and then in recent years for me with like, I think about career when I would get that scrutiny of like, Wendy, slow down, you've got 3 girls at home, you really want to sign up for that. I was like, absolutely. I am going to be a great example to my children. Doesn't matter. I actually had a conversation with the CEO of the company at the time, who was a male. And I asked for time. I had a relationship with him where I could ask for time. And I said, hey, did you ever feel like any less of a dad to your children because you chose the career that you did? You knew you wanted to be a CEO for a long time. Did you ever, not show up as a dad because of that? Do your kids see you in a different way because of taking that path? And he was wonderful about it, actually. He's like, no, my kids know me as dad. Showed up when it mattered. And when it got out of balance, I did something about it. But like, why do you ask? I'm like, well, people keep telling me because I'm a mom that I should slow down. And I'm just trying to understand from a father that clearly was on this path for a while, like, what has the impact been? Because I just, eyes wide open on it. So I think now I live with, like, to your point, Melissa, on building your own business and starting something. Great example to your kids. Like I think like one, I still live with the don't want to regret it. So I'm going to at least try.
yeah,
And then 2, I think like, okay, courage is a great thing to see. Resilience are great things to see on the bounce back. And so, being willing to take that step and just kind of deal with what it is. And if I make a mistake, okay, I own up, I made a mistake and I can do something about it. So called choices, right? But I live my life that way. And maybe that lives me sitting here now, I don't have regrets. And I feel fortunate because maybe from that lens, I don't know if that's a secret to it, because I'm not trying to say it's easy. Others would tell me, this goes like to the braggadocious thing now, others would say like, I wish I had the courage that you did to, unwind a marriage, to make a big career move, to do whatever it was, right? And I didn't think about it at the time of that was, courageous. That was what was right for where things were at that point. It's just it from my view, at least. And I have to live with me.
Yeah. It's somebody said, how do you like the transition of working at home? And I'm on the phone, you get lonely. And I'm like, no, I start my day with a strategic conversation every morning, a 3 to 4 mile walk, and so I'm walking and talking and whether it's the karate coaches driving by or other moms, and they're like, I saw you walking, your hands were going and you were like walking so fast and it was so cold. And oh my God, I was just snuggling having coffee, or they were on their way to the office. And, the one thing for me has been, I love the balance of being at home. I'm way more efficient, work-wise and with home stuff. And, I had such a specific routine of how to manage being in the office from 8 to 5 every day and getting it and not having to do chore heavy weeknights. So I really learned that cadence well. And then I've come now where I'm home. And so I could back off a little bit on the OCD of that cadence, although it's still a pretty healthy cadence because I want my work days to be work days. I want my 8 to 5 to be 8 to 5 and I'm working and I'm grinding, whether it's a technical task that I have to do, or hey, I can pull in a network meeting, or I can make a call. And the thing that's funny now is that I'm finding myself, hey, I want to get back to you. I'm so excited. I know we talked about circling back 3 weeks ago, and I'll get, well, how are your projects working for you? So they want to hear about what I'm working on. So it's been a great way to also talk and share about the companies I'm involved with, which just continues to promote the companies very organically, not really driven. At the same time, then talk about, well, what else is on your plate, or anything else coming on the horizon? And it's, somebody said to me, how do you stay motivated? And I think, I feel like this, having unwound a marriage and being, a single provider and a single parent, I don't have a choice. But also I answer to myself, and I answer to my own hustle. And so I have to look at myself every day in the mirror and know that I put in a good day's work. And I still have that same sense of when I close my laptop, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whether I've gone back after dinner and had to do another 30 minutes of something, or 5:30 in the morning, I'm answering my first pass of emails. When I finish each day, I can still finish knowing that I stopped at a good place. I accomplished what I needed to accomplish, and I can put it to the side. And then I always call that 5:30 to 8:30, my fourth quarter 2-minute drill with the kids at night, whether it's dinners, and that's my weakest point is dinners, but dinners and sports activities and face forming, or whatever it is that we're doing. I won't tell you that I won't scroll my phone sitting in a grocery store line looking at company email, because I still do that. So there's a little bit of I've not really been that great at being able to shut it off. But I also, does that mean I'm watching Rudolph and I'm checking a work email real quick because I heard a ding? Probably. I still want to be responsive and engaged, but I'm also able to compartmentalize. I know some people that say I can't look at that from 5 to 8. I can't switch those gears. And I've always been at my best when I'm juggling 6 balls and shifting a 5-speed and not dropping a ball and not missing a gear. So maybe I'll unwind at some point, but it's no time soon, really.
Look, I think I've been fortunate to work with a guy who's kind of been my coach in recent months, and I would give myself a hard time for not getting some things done that I really wanted to get done. I'm my own worst enemy on stuff of like, so unproductive, especially having flexibility like I have. And I will say, like, the gift, because I've worked remote now for it'll have been almost 4 years that I've been in a remote situation. And there are such wonderful gifts that come from this flexibility in working this way, built a company and a culture that way. So I can tell you, it doesn't have to happen. Is it ideal to still get people together from time to time? Yes. In very intentional ways. Absolutely. But, I also early career was on the phone with people all over the world that I never met in person, and somehow we got things done.
Sure.
So I'm probably not like most, okay, in that way, or what I tend to think is more old school in the style of management by visibility kind of tactic versus trusting in people and empowering them to do their job or hold them accountable if they don't. So, but I'll say, like, the one thing I miss is that transition. I've had to be good about transitions into work and from work, because those used to be like my safe space to show up well for the kids when I would get home from a crazy busy day. I worked really hard at that. I'll say kids gave me balance to try and be better about when I would look at stuff, right? And how I wanted to show up well for them, not be burnt because I spent all of my energy at work all day and then be fizzed out that I didn't have any energy for them walking in the door, right? And so I miss those transitions a little bit, like, boom, they'll be running in the door from school here in a bit, and it'll just be a swarm. And if I have a door open, they're like, mom, hey, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh my goodness, shame on me. I didn't leave the door shut. And same in the morning, like that little commute, even 15 minutes would make a difference for me, just to like mentally get in the zone of some of it, and kind of have some boundaries. And so the boundary part has been the piece, I think, that, and then not beating myself up about not getting some things done. Like, someone gave me a really good tip where they're like, figure out what your one non-negotiable is for the day. That's it. And granted, I've had to reprioritize. I wouldn't have had, none of us would have had the careers we've had if we couldn't do that, because stuff just naturally comes up that may not have been anticipated, and you learn how to adjust.
Kids
But
are they're trying to understand my when there's things. I'm a dork. I'll put tasks on the top of my Google Calendar in red, and those are the non-negotiables that I have to get done on that particular day. But
Okay.
if there's things I have to do that's an absolute non-negotiable, I'll put a sticky note on the top of my laptop. And I had to create a home office, that environment. It couldn't be the dining room table or the kitchen table, because I didn't want to walk by and feel the nag and the pull and the irritability of oh, there's my laptop. Did I do this? Do I need to do that? Do I do that? And I wanted it to be in its own room, in its own space.
Same.
And where I would go in, when I sit down in this chair, I'm grinding. Now, can I grind walking the neighborhood? I can. Can I pace downstairs on a call? I can. Most of my calls are like this, and most of my work is done right here at my desk. So there's that separation of church and state that helped me immediately. The other thing I did, is I've been blessed with some fantastic mentors. And I also established very, very quickly, within the first 2 to 8 days of starting this venture of my own business, I reached out to people that had done it before me, and I have been under their wise tutelage and mandates. It was a couple are Chris Warden's very, very dear friend. He started Vesna, as a year in, and he was, he's like a brother, and he was very much kind of like, you're going to do this the way I should have, and I'm going to hold your hand to it. And he really challenged me to dot some I's and cross some T's and strategically take the time to set it up the right way. Another dear friend said, every person I spoke to gave me lessons of how I could enhance, improve, or make my business more dynamic. And so what has come out of it is just the surrounding. I may not have a life mate partner, under my roof, but having that network of people that I can pick up a phone at any given day, there's about 3 to 5 of them, and say, hey, what did you do when this happened? Or what did you do when that happened? And not only have I learned a tremendous amount from them, but they've been kind of my coaching staff, I think, my informal coaching staff. And then as my businesses begin to flourish, there'll be referrals back, so everything always works hand in hand, and that whole referral network thing, Richard and I have talked about this a lot, is as I've built this and as I have more conversation, it really has been about putting a team together. So at this point, do I have a team? I've got a roster ready to go that I could pull from and put players into the game where I need them. So I'm able to really strategically take step back as a CEO and founder and lead CAT strategy, roll up my hands, on a lot of the CRO, fractional CRO stuff, because that's the heart of what I love to do. I love marketing too, but there's other people that are better at marketing than I am, but I know it. So knowing who to plug in and fill some of the marketing gaps.
Yeah.
So that has been really something that I focused on as well. And so it's that whole idea of the partnership, and then you have one sister's an entrepreneur, an older sister is a retired CFO nurse, but also now just starting in that, embracing an entrepreneur spirit for herself, developing a children's line of books, and being able to really, your siblings are your harshest critics sometimes, so I think it is not being afraid to pick up a phone or reach out and say, hey, what did you do when this happened? Or how did you handle this?
Yeah.
But
I love the fact that you just teed up the perfect segue to plug my own service.
yes.
So I'll plug mine and then y'all plug yours, and let's tell.
Well, you plugged us for the last hour.
Yeah,
so
no kidding.
It's your time, Richard.
Well, so the very premise of Parabolic is dedicated to growing wealth together through business and organizational development, creative collaborations, networking. Our services at Parabolic are fractional executive support in the form of chief development officer. And not many people are really familiar with what that is, although they do it every day. It's external business development and forging strategic partnerships, but it's also internal development, team building, team structuring, building the architecture and the foundation for a healthy business. And so that's what I do. And of course, through the referral partnerships, we offer introductions to other fractional executive services. So the CROs, the CMOs, CEOs, COO, all the chiefs, all on a gig-based model to help conserve operating capital and minimize equity dilution, if you think about it in that respect. So that's the premise of Parabolic. And the extension of Parabolic is the Blue Sky program, which I love to invite innovators and entrepreneurs and thought leaders and people with limitless attitudes, such as the two of you. So thank you for joining the program. Let's give the healthy elevator pitch for VLAB Partners and how listeners can find you, Wendy, and then move to Melissa with Catch Strategy. Give us the pitch, the value prop, all of that, and then we'll get on out of here.
Sure. So VLAB Partners is simply VLABpartners.com is the easiest place to find us. We essentially, Melinda and I, are fueling healthcare transformation, and in our mighty way as just two right now, by being strategy shapers and change makers and working with those visionaries within the healthcare ecosystem to really try and bring together where there's deep fragmentation across sectors. We know we sit in a unique seat. We can sometimes see things from another angle, and also then just to be extensions of, you think of board of directors or investors, and then CEOs, trusted advisors on the side, and extensions, honestly, in getting in there with their teams. That's more our style and how we tackle doing business together. We get in there, want to make sure that we're both oriented on execution, want to make sure it's oriented on execution. So we're in there as an extension of those teams and how we do it. So, we're clearly believing that it just takes more of us to really make a big difference. And so trying to have an impact from where we sit.
Melissa?
So Catch Strategy we're a sales and marketing firm, and we specialize in fractional services, primarily chief revenue officer services, CMO services. And the belief is that, we can bring our experience and expertise to organizations who may not be able to afford a C-level executive or a VP level executive, whether it's for a short-term engagement, a fine-tuning, working out some kinks, a quick bump in revenue, a dissection of a sales team, a break in the sales and marketing link, or maybe it's more of a longer-term engagement. And oftentimes, what comes out of that is, okay, well, this organization they could use some marketing help, and I could see over here where they could buff up their organizational dev, or where Richard would come in. And so it doesn't always just seem to be some sales help. So it's been a great opportunity to bring really the best of what I do, which is a combination of high level strategy with an OCD level of tactical execution to organizations that need it on a fractional basis without the overhead hit. And I would say being able to do it in the industries that I love, and that's been something that's been just very important to me.
And so what are the industries?
Power sports. I'm a power sports kid. So power sports, whether it's off-road or marine, the bicycle industry. I spent many years in the bicycle industry. EV, whether that's standard EV or micromobility. It's just it's my most recent corporate experience in-house. And it's the micromobility segment is really underdeveloped, underappreciated. It's new. There's a lot of leg to it, and I think we're going to see a real jump in the adoption of micromobility and motorsports. I love motorsports too. So that really, if I could swim in those lanes only, I would be content till the end of time.
Well, thank you both for joining. I hope to have you on again at some point, and keep others in mind. if you'd like to co-host with me and you bring on one of your contacts and you just want to sit there and grill them and I can be a fly on the wall, I'd love to be a part of that as well.
Sure.
But that's kind of the nature of this platform is we all grow together. So happy to know you, happy to have you on the show, and talk to you later.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you for having us.
This episode of Blue Sky is sponsored by Parabolic. Parabolic is dedicated to growing wealth together through business and organizational development services designed by conducting a rigorous workshop with your business leaders. Are you a small to medium-sized business needing to grow into new markets? Or have you grown too rapidly and now need to unwind some of the damage? There is no cookie-cutter template to solve your unique issues. There is no step-by-step proprietary method these other consultants claim for high fees. Parabolic focuses specifically on your unique challenges in a one-on-one setting to dive deeply into the issues, to develop a list of action items and next steps. And if we can help with those steps, we'll talk about it. No strings, no BS. Visit parabolic-strategy.com today to contact us. parabolic-strategy.com. Let's go vertical.